Hello, this is part 2 of how to make a scrunchie. In the first video, we learned how to measure and cut the scrunchie. So here you have the long pieces, right? What you're going to do is fold all your pieces, right sides together, like that. And just do the same task over and over again, okay? Like that. So you're going to sew right sides together. This is a slippery fabric, so you need to pin it. And you're gonna make the seam allowance 1/2 inch. You don't want it narrow because with all the pulling and tugging of a scrunchie, it might fall apart. Seam allowance is from the raw edge, which this is a raw edge, to where the seam is going to be. You gotta learn this terminology because it's what you see when you follow instructions on patterns. Now when you start a seam and when you end a seam, you want to reinforce it with the reverse. So you go in 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3, and always hold your threads to avoid the thread from coming out of the needle. 1, 2, 3, and then continue. Always remember to reverse right before you stop sewing. And just to be more efficient, just go ahead and leave this there and go on to the next one. Pin. Give it a, hold your threads. Remember to hold your threads to avoid them from tangling on the bottom of your fabric. So hold your threads. 1, 2, 3. Got your pin as you approach it. Reverse. The reason you want to reverse is because you don't want your seams to be opening up later on when you have like this. You want them to be nice and tight. Right there. If you don't reinforce that with the reverse, they're just gonna open up and fall apart. Now you do all the pieces with the seam. Once you have all that done, you open it up. I like to put this seam on the bottom. Put the seam on the bottom, right? And then this you're gonna fold up like that, just to make it small and narrow to get it out of the way. Now here you can see I have this extra fabric, and that's what happens when we don't cut correctly. But that's how we learn, right? We learn through our mistakes. So I'm just going to fix it here to get that extra out of the way. Alright, now you're gonna open the seam. You're gonna open it up. The reason I open up the seams is to avoid too much bulkiness in this area. Instead of having 4 layers of fabric, you only have 2. And those details make the difference from quality from so. We pin it, and these should line up. And those are good habits because those habits you're gonna pass on to your other more things that you make, like your dresses, your shirts, anything, and you want it to look quality, right? Now this is where I'm going to start sewing. It's about 4 fingers from the seam, and I like to start always at the same spot, just so I can remember where that opening is. And 1/2 inch seam allowance. Take out the pin, hold your threads, reverse sew. 1, 2, 3, reverse, and continue. then as you need more area to sew, you can pull this down like that. Keep your raw edges together. Get this out of the way. And you can feel with your hand whether or not the inside tube is getting in the way of the seam. You don't want that to happen. Nope. Press down here. Continue all the way around. And as you get closer to the pin, you're gonna pull it more, and that gives you more sewing area. Okay. Don't pull on your fabric and don't push it, just let it go. All you're doing is guiding the fabric along the seam marker there and holding your raw edges together. That's how you're doing. And so I have this sewing social where we make scrunchies. At the beginning, you learn how to handle the machine, how to thread it, all that good stuff, and then get over the fear of the sewing machine. And then we cut, practice measuring and practice cutting, and now we're doing this, sewing. And yes, you can sew at home, but social sewing is so that you can be surrounded with other sewers and just have conversation, make friends, socialize, create something together, like friendships. Because sewing takes time, and it's not just about work. Sewing is a place for creating something with your own hands. And you're gonna have like a little bit of excess fabric. I don't know why, it just happens, because it's probably because it's slippery, but just push it over towards the foot, the excess fabric, or with your finger. And the opening is going to be about 2 fingers. So you want to mark that with a pin or just with eye it. Enough space to turn it over and reverse, and that, and take it off. Trim your threads down. Either you do it now or you do it later, but you have to do it, and I prefer to do it in the moment. Put it aside and then do another one. Do the same step for all of them. That way you don't have to, you get that step down as soon as possible instead of doing one scrunchie at a time. Match your seams right here, match them. Open up the seam. Okay. Open it. And then sew it. Grab your threads. Reverse sew. Push in that filling towards this side, that way you don't sew over it. Make sure your seams are flat. And pull on the tube. If you need to pin it, so you want to have these even, and you want to make sure it's 1/2 inch, because you want a nice, strong, lasting scrunchie. So you get closer to the pin. I like to take it out. I'm not risking breaking my needle. As you get experience, you don't have to pin as much, but I do pin because this is slippery fabric. And as you know, just keep tugging at it as you go. And then your opening, you're gonna leave it about 1.5 inches or 2 fingers, I say. Mark it where you're gonna stop sewing. It seems like we have some excess fabric here. So what I like to do, you can either just make a tuck right here. It's not a big deal, it's a scrunchie. But if you were doing a garment, you don't want that to happen at all. So you just gotta undo it and make it again, re-sew it. That's why you have to baste and you have to pin. But this is a scrunchie. So I'm just gonna continue reverse. You can, like that. This is real, actual sewing. These are the things you encounter even when you're making a scrunchie. But that's okay. That's the good thing about sewing, is that everything has a solution. You just learn as you go. So remember, you have to reinforce these openings because we don't want this to be opening up and falling apart on you when you flip it over. You grab the tube, grab it, and take it out. Right there. There you have your opening. Then you're gonna need a bobby pin, your elastic that we already cut, right? I like to push it down like that because there's a little edge here that might snag the fabric. So put it down like that. Find the opening right here and pass it on through. And remember to pin the other edge somewhere along the opening. That way it doesn't go all the way through and then you're gonna have to start all over again. Grab the pin and pass your elastic through with confidence that it's not gonna go through. And there. With practice, you get faster. And these are really good gifts for Mother's Day, birthday presents. You can give the person a bunch of scrunchies in all different colors. They're always appreciated. Okay, grab your elastic. Make a knot. See, this is why you cut your threads. They always pop out. Make a knot, whatever kind of knot you want. I like to do the knot like as if you were tying a balloon. Up there. You can cut off the excess if you like, or just leave it. Just make sure it's not falling apart. And you can finish this opening with the machine or with a slip stitch. And I can show you that. I prefer the slip stitch. It just looks more even. It looks the same as this over here. If you finish it with the machine, it looks like this. You can easily find it, I think. Oh, here. See, here you can find out when you see them use the machine. That's how you close it. So you would make sure that these are nice and folded in, and then you would sew from here to here. And that's this one. Or you can do the slip stitch, which is more invisible. So for that, you get a needle, make a knot at the end. You put your knot somewhere underneath where you're not going to see it. So I'm going to put it right here where the seam starts. But inside, there are other videos. There are some good YouTube videos out there on how to slip stitch. But that's what you do. You go on the seam, your edges are folded in where they would have been if you'd sewn there. You do a little bit, like a 3 millimeters, 1/4 inch on one side, and then on the other one, you go from side to side, okay, all the way through. This takes about an extra 2 minutes of your life, but it's worth it because a scrunchie is gonna stay fluffy at the edges. You won't see that seam like you did on the other one. And it makes a big difference. It goes from an average scrunchie to a luxury scrunchie. Then you get to the edge, make a knot by doing a loop, passing it through the loop, and there, that is called the slip stitch. If you want a closer view of this, do how to do a slip stitch, and it'll show you. But if you come to a sewing class, you can see it up close while I do it. So you need the website I am going to put up in the calendar, that social sewing class, scrunchies and munchies. I'll bring some munchies and we can munch and make scrunchies at the same time. The spots are limited, so you need to sign up and save your spot.